Hello. Welcome to another episode of Walk the Dog Cinema. I hope you've all been having a good one out there. Today I have a little bit of a special post Valentine's Day movie. It does deal with love conquering all. I'm gonna say that this movie that you saw in the title, believe it or not, yes, is one of the best love stories ever put on celluloid, and I'm going to make a strong case for that one. You might think I'm crazy, and yes, I am talking about the Terminator, and that was my special Valentine's Day movie. And you'd say, are you crazy? And I'd say maybe a little bit so on this one, but I'm gonna just give it up straight. It is one of the best love stories ever put down, and I am going to make a case for that one. You can sit there after you watch through this one. There's gonna be tons of spoilers. I'm assuming that you've all watched the movie before. If you haven't, I'm gonna say get off of it and watch the Terminator. Yes, it is an action movie. It's a horror movie. It's got sci-fi, but it is also a love story through and through. The whole crux of the whole entire movie is love drives it completely and utterly. You got the great Arnold Schwarzenegger performance that isn't much of a performance, but at the same time, it's a genius performance, genius casting. And I'm already going to say Terminator is one of my all-time favorite films ever put on film. It didn't do very good at the box office. Became a raging hit on VHS. That's how I got to see it my very first time. I was a young little guy and didn't get the whole love story thing. Obviously, the action and just the relentless pace of that movie, is what drew me in as a young guy. But it works on just so many crazy levels. And you can go on about James Cameron, but it is his opus. And you'd say, wow, his first movie, basically. And I'd say, yeah, he's never touched it since. In that regard, he's done better action films. Aliens. I mean, even Terminator-2 is a better action film. But as a film, Titanic doesn't even touch it. It's lean. It's mean, gritty, hurdles forward, tight script. Yes, it's got some 80s cliche in there, but when you put it all together, it really is something to behold. And so when you're listening to this whole review or discussion, so to speak, about the Terminator, I want you to think about this on a whole other level than just an action movie, sci-fi, horror movie. Yes, he's a relentless robot, and we have the damsel in distress and all of those things, but the underlying whole theme of this film, is actually quite magnificent. And I've heard some things that he talks about testosterone laden and all that, yeah, with the action, but I even think James Cameron has forgotten what is the movie fueled by, and that is Michael Biehn's character and his love for Lyndon Hamilton's character, who creates, together they create John Connor in this great loop, and we can go into the paradoxes of time travel and all of these crazy things within it. I'm not going to really touch upon all of that and how, time travel in and of itself as movies and everything is rather absurd, And so I will say, though, within the concepts of time travel, the movie is a perfect loop. And get right into it now. So like I said, you never seen Terminator? Watch it. It's just a fantastic film, bar none. And you won't be disappointed. That's the way I feel about it. Not only is it one of the great 80s movies, it's one of the greats of all time. So, underlying factor we have Michael Biehn's character, and he gets sent from the future to the past to protect Linda Hamilton's character, who is going to give birth to basically the Resistance, because the robots have taken over and they've destroyed the future. They just want robot kind. They want to wipe out all of humanity. And the Resistance leader, John Connor, comes from Linda Hamilton. So the computers are sending, the robots, AI and all that, which is kind of interesting what's going on today, is sent a Terminator, an assassin robot, to the past to literally take out Sarah Connor, so John Connor can never be born and be the Resistance to the machines. And now we have our kind of perfect loop. John Connor in the future sends back Kyle Reese, who's Michael Biehn, to protect Sarah Connor, and through it we learn the process that Kyle wanted to be sent back. And so that whole overlying arc of it is what makes this kind of crazy good for me. The movie, starts and we see, Michael Biehn coming into play, getting sent back, and how he gets to the streets, and we're introduced to him and the Terminator. So our two, real protagonists and antagonists of the movie from the future. Some cool little special effects, but we get a great introduction with Arnold just being this malevolent, psychotic serial killer robot, no passion, no feelings. Great setup. And then we meet Sarah Connor, the other player in this, and it's all pretty standard stuff in terms of how it moves and everything. And that's besides the point. It moves at a great clip. It's got some great sequences in there where, the robot is finding other Sarah Connors and just mowing them down. And then really startling, not action-packed sequences, just basically like a horror movie. And they're quite frightening when you really think about it. They're well shot, and you're just like, wow, and crazy. And so it really sets the tension of the movie. And then when he finally gets to the Sarah Connor that is the one, Michael Biehn kind of tracks and gets set up to protect her. And so we get to the crux of, Michael Biehn's character. And there's a really important sequence in the movie where it shows us the future. Because, and it's in flashback, and because he's in the present, and he talks to Sarah Connor about this picture he has of her and how he loves the legend, and he fell in love with that picture. And the reason he falls in love with that picture is because she's looking off into the horizon, looking off into her future, and in his mind he's always wondering what it is she's thinking about in that moment. And he found it beautiful and all those things. And he'd go to hell and back for John Connor, this guy who's this great leader. And of course, when the time came, who's going to go back and save John and save Sarah? It was going to be Michael Biehn, because he loves Sarah Connor. He's in love with her, loves everything about it, and all because he also loves John Connor. And as the story goes, I'm not going to get into all of the craziness of the story. I'm really just diving into the love aspect of it as you watch this and really see it take hold. That gravitas of Kyle Reese. And we get to learn that he is John Connor's father. And then when you tie it to the future and this perfect circle, though we never see John Connor, he hangs over the whole movie. And that's because of Kyle Reese and Michael Biehn's performance and how he explains who John Connor is. But then we also then realize that this whole time John Connor is talking to Kyle Reese, he knows that's his dad. So he's been dealing with his father during the whole future, okay? And has had to have this great relationship with his dad without telling him he's his dad. But they have kind of a reverse father-son mentorship, where John Connor, is kind of taking Kyle Reese under his wing, but they still have this great friendship and admiration and love for each other as a father-son, just in a little bit in reverse, which is kind of interesting, which fuels Kyle Reese to want to protect John Connor's mom, who he's in love with, right? And so there's that whole dynamic that's in the future that we never get to see, but it hangs over the whole movie. And so that love conquers out the evil robots who have no emotion, and they're just all thinking and feeling. And then we get to present also, where Kyle Reese expresses himself to Linda Hamilton, to Sarah Connor, about that. And of course, she loves the fact that he's protecting her now. She trusts him after they go through some stuff. And we get to the end where she's the last one remaining after everyone's been taken out. Then it's, unkillable robots coming after her in a very horror movie fashion, just like Halloween. He's stalking her. He's going to keep coming. He keeps coming. Great tension and all this wonderfulness. You get the cheesy one, 1980s, game over kind of thing, and she kills the robot. Then we get to when the picture's taken. And so the movie, in some sense, starts with that picture. And we're going to end with that picture. And you see her driving in kind of the epilogue of everything with the movie. And we get the epilogue, and that photo gets taken of her that we saw Kyle having a picture of. And, the cloud, when you really think about it, Kyle asked her what she was thinking about. And the great thing about that is when you watch it and you really see it, the photo was taken and she was thinking of Kyle. So he falls in love with the picture of the woman that is actually in love with him at that moment, who's thinking of him. So he never finds out what she was thinking of, but at the same time we find out. And that's why I say it's a perfect love story. It's a perfect circle, all fits in, it's nice and tight, and it's a really great moment. And when you look at that, it is one of the best love stories ever told in that, because everything done in that movie was all done out of love, sacrifice, what we think of it, committing yourself to a greater ideal than us, all over these ideas of love and what we think of these people. And we never see John Connor, and we know how great of a leader and a person of empathy and all of these things that these people are, just because Kyle is one of his soldiers that acts out of love. He's duty and honor bound, and he's a great guy, and he's gonna protect Sarah Connor with his life, for his life, to make sure that not just humanity wins, but they win. And it comes down to him for her, and they both, off of this picture, were in love with each other. So that's why I say it's one of the greatest love stories ever told within the context of a horror movie, action-packed film. And it's one of those kind of great Valentine's like things that you could use as a counter instead of watching a true romantic comedy or anything like that. And so if you've never been able to get your wife or a woman to watch it, just kind of use that reasoning that there's this great love story in there, and watch Terminator one year for Valentine's Day. You won't be disappointed. So I hope I get a little insight on why I think it's such a great movie in that regard, and the underlying crux. I hope you appreciate the movie even more with that, because it's not overtly subtle, but there are these little finer points in Terminator that I don't think always get brought out, because most people just think of the Arnold Schwarzenegger action aspect of it. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Leave your comments down below and let me know what you thought of the Terminator and what you think of my ideas within the concept of the Terminator. And join our community by subscribing. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.